Hello, hello, hello. Test check 1, 2. All right, let's get this thing going. There I am. Hello and welcome to yet another Wednesday song feedback stream. My name is Zaak Kerstetter, and this is what we do here at Catalyze Academy on Wednesdays. So the way this is going to work for anybody who is new around here or is just joining us, what's up, Hef? How are you doing today? Is I've just put a link in chat that should be pinned to the chat in a moment. Let me try that again. Oh, there it is. Click on that link. That'll take you to the spreadsheet, which is where you are going to put your link for the track that you are working on recently. Before we get started, I have a few kind of general things I like to go over at the start of stream, make sure everybody kind of is on the same page and knows what's going on. The first is I'm looking for original tracks only, so no remixes or anything like that. I've gotten people have been sending me remixes, which is not a big deal. I just don't have to deal with copyright stuff in YouTube. It's a whole thing, and it's not my favorite thing to have to deal with. So no remixes, anything like that, and that makes my life a lot easier. On top of that, I would highly encourage you guys to send in works in progress, so no finished tracks, things you've already done and released out into the world. You can do that if you really want. If you don't have any tracks that are still work in progress, you just finish something, you can just release it, and we want to get some thoughts on it, that's totally fine. But it's a lot more interesting to me when it's still in progress, because that way you can actually take the feedback and go back and change things or update the track or whatever. On top of that, all genres, all styles, all skill levels, all experience levels are 100% welcome here. So whatever it is you're making, that's totally fine. I want to hear it. Send it to me. On top of that, if you are going to be submitting a track for feedback, it is highly encouraged, but not necessarily required, that you also give other people feedback in chat. That way it's not just me talking at the camera, and it's a conversation and everybody helps each other out. So highly encouraged that you guys give each other feedback. Even if you're newer to production and you maybe don't have a lot of like really technical feedback, any little bit of info can be really helpful for people who are stuck working on a track. The thing I always tell people to ask themselves when listening to a track is, if this is your track, what's the next thing you're going to do? Right? So what are you going to change? What are you going to add? What do you need to get rid of? All that kind of stuff. Doesn't necessarily need to be the most like insightful feedback. Anything is helpful. Songs will be reviewed in a first come, first serve basis. So I'm just going to go top to bottom through the spreadsheet as people start filling it out. If you have more than one track that you would like feedback on, wait until the end of the stream. That way I can make sure I got time to get through everybody's track. Most likely, I will usually have time to get through everybody's track, but depends on how many people show up and send in tracks. On top of that, the video for the streams, all my streams get posted to the channel. They're not on the main video page, they're on the playlist page. So if you submit a track and you can't be around for feedback, you can always watch it later, or if you want to watch your feedback later, you can do so later. On top of that, I use the same spreadsheet every single week, full secret. So if you on, next Friday want to send in a track, you can send it early and I'll review it at the start of the stream. So feel free to toss a track in wherever you want. And then you can watch the video whenever you want. If you can't make it for a stream, that's totally fine. We can still work with that. Lastly, all feedback is free. I do this for fun because I enjoy it and I like listening to people's tracks and talking about people's tracks. However, if you would like to help support the channel, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe, you can watch all of my videos on repeat, you can tell all your friends. all those things, whatever, anything you can do to help is super, super appreciated. If you would like to help support the channel financially, you can do super chats in chat. That's a cool way to send me some money. You can also check out the Patreon where I do extra streams and have extra content and stuff going on over there. So yeah, that's kind of the concept. That's what we're doing here today. Looks like we got some people sending in tracks, which is fantastic. You can also join the Discord if you want to get more involved and be able to share more tracks and hang out with the people who want to talk about making music. All right, so without any further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Give me 1 second to get everything set up. As always, with the first track of the stream, I'm gonna do a little bit of a sound check. So let me know if it's too quiet, too loud, any of that kind of stuff. And I really don't want to butcher your name. Is it? I'm like trying to figure out how you pronounce this. I want to say Elixian, Elixcan, Helixcan. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a different way that you want that to be pronounced. But yeah, we're gonna check this out. Make sure this is turned on. Make sure that looks good. All right, let's go ahead and try this out. I'm seeing it's a hip hop and rap track. I asked this to anybody who shares a hip hop track, if this is you on vocals, on the beat, or both, or maybe it's just an instrumental. I haven't listened to it yet, but anytime there's rapping on a track, it helps me to know some of the context for what's going on.
Voice.
Sit down at the talk a minute, can we have a conversation? Told me that you still talk to your ex and now it's complicated. Like why me? Like why me? I might crash your rave, any rest on rest today. Told me that she love me, then she don't, I know she here to play. Like why me? Like why me? All these people in the world and you chose me. Yeah, I'm lonely, think you ought to show me. Low key, I need you to hold me. Rock out, have a guitar until like metal, no told him. Remember you told me that love would pop up, baby, like it did. Said I love you, never said it back, I really wish you did. Now you hate my guts, you don't even wanna see me. Love is tough, told me that you love me, but I wasn't good enough. Like damn, what did I do? Damn, call my phone, text me, can we ever sit down at the talk a minute, can we have a conversation? Told me that you still talk to your ex and now it's complicated. Like why me? Like why me? I might crash your rave, any rest on rest today. Told me that she love me, then she don't, I know she here to play. Like why me? Like why me?
Nice. Overall, this sounds really good. Oh, what's up, Bishop? How you been? It has been a while since I've seen you. Overall, it sounds really good. I got a few comments on the beat, which again, if this is just you on the vocals and you just bought the beat, I'm not sure if there's much you can do to go back and change that. The one big major thing that's going on here that I think needs to be taken a look at is the kick drum feels way too loud, especially in relationship to the vocals. So the kick, the 808 boomy kick is just taking up all this space in the mix. And so I think that if the goes down a tiny bit, you'll be able to hear the vocals a lot better, and the mix will sound a bit more balanced. And I think that's the big that's like the big issue that I'm hearing right here. So other than that, I think overall the vocals sound pretty good. They're a little breathy at certain points. You can hear some kind of like breathing in, especially in this area, I felt like.
Love is tough, told me that you love me, but I wasn't good enough. Like damn, what did I?
There's also like a weird pop right here. I don't know if you can hear that.
Love is tough, told me that you love me, but I wasn't good enough. Like damn, what did I?
And so it sounds like there's like a vocal part or something that's just being cut off. So check right around 102, 103, 104. There's a little click in there. So watch out for that. So I think a little bit of EQing on your vocals to get rid of some of those breaths could be really helpful. You're also going pretty heavy on the reverbs, which I think is fine. I think that's a cool aesthetic choice. But I think the reverb on the vocals is causing a lot of masking in your mix, so it makes it hard to hear like all the sounds that are happening. And originally I thought the reverb was on your guitar because your guitar sounds a little bit kind of distant and far away. So it may be both, but there's definitely, you can definitely hear like when you end your vocal phrase here, you can hear how long that reverb is. So I love the reverb itself. I love the concept. Maybe a tiny bit less decay time on the reverb, and that'll be super great. Oh, what's up, Gator Dreams? How are you doing today? I'm glad you're enjoying my stuff. So yeah, those are kind of the main things that I'm noticing. Too much kick, a little bit of EQing on the vocals, a little bit less, just like a tiny bit less reverb on the vocals, I think will go a long way. Other than that, I think it sounds pretty good. I'm going to jump around a little bit, see if there's anything else I missed, but those are kind of like the main things.
Sit down at the talk a minute, can we have a conversation? Tell me that you still talk to your ex and now it's complicated. Like why me? Like why me? I might crash your I need you to hold me. Rock out, have a good set, I love you, never said it back, I really wish you did. Now you hate my guts, you don't even want to see me.
I think, again, I'm not sure if it's possible if you bought the beat, a little bit more guitar in the mix. I wouldn't mind that. It does get lost a little bit, especially when there's a lot of other stuff going on. But yeah, those are kind of the main things that I'm hearing here. Chat, what do you think? Thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Let us know. I kind of dig that the arrangement is like nice and short and sweet. Like it feels like really concise. Yeah, we can definitely take another listen. All right, we got a track from King KY up next. Nice. I like it. Really dark, really moody, really kind of like atmospheric. Really digging the vibe of it. I do feel like the arrangement could go more places. I love all the sounds that you have and what they're doing. Um, but it kind of just feels like, okay, it's the same concept over and over again. And so more variety and potentially one or two more layers, just some like cool, interesting, weird, either background noises, kind of like ear candy kind of sounds, I think would go a long way. Or some kind of like melodic element, I think would also help quite a bit. Something to help kind of like feel like you're taking your listener on a journey. And I like the places that this song is going, but I want to go more places because I think it's really cool. Other than that, I feel like I like when you layer up your punchy kick and your boomy kick, like in here. I think it works pretty well, but just your punchy kick, I don't mind your kick so much, but it definitely, the mid-range kind of like impact of that kick feels a little bit too high-pitched for me. Or it feels a little filtered. I don't know. It feels like it feels really kind of condensed in terms of the frequencies it's taking up. So I think layering up that punchy kick with one that has a bit more of like a broader frequency range could be really nice. And then I think it will also fit in nicely when you layer in with the low end. Because like this to me, as a kick, I think it's fine, but I think it could be better. Other than that, little glitchy edits, I think would also go a really long way. You kind of do them occasionally, and especially here at the end. Like I love that little kind of choppy edit you did there. So more little choppy, glitchy edits like that, kind of sprinkled throughout the whole track, could be really cool. I think you maybe did one over here too. Maybe didn't. Yeah, little glitchy edits like that could be really cool. Other than that, let me jump around and see if there's anything else I'm missing. But those are kind of the main things I'm hearing off the top of my head. You know what would be dope on this track? Some strings. Some like violins or something like that, playing some like little staccato violins could be really cool. Especially in these kind of like more kind of empty sections. Yeah, one or two more layers, a little more variation, a little ear candy in there, I think would go a long way. I'm curious whether you are planning on tossing some vocals or rapping or something on this, because that would also do the trick. But I do think a little bit more detail-oriented work on some of the arrangement and the layering would help, even if you do put vocals in there. But yeah, I'm definitely digging it. I definitely like all the elements you have. I'm liking. I just want to hear more things going on there. All right. Next up, we got track. Oh, I almost grabbed the wrong one. So I see somebody's putting in a couple tracks in a row there. I'm only accepting one track at a time right now, but most likely, in fact, pretty much guaranteed, I will have time at the end of the stream to get to multiple tracks from a single person. So just so people know. All right, we're gonna track from Primo. And if anybody is just joining us and would like to send a track, you can click on the link that is pinned up at the top of the chat. That'll take you to the spreadsheet, and that's how you send me your track.
started to decay. Can't escape you deep inside my head. You can't kill me, I'm already dead. Can't stop thinking of the swelling pain. Got to break free of this hook and chain. It's not you that I'm relying on. You won't find me, I'm already gone.
Nice. Really solid work here. Hey, Jason, how you doing? I feel like you took a lot of the advice you got last week on stream, and you definitely made a lot of progress here. Vocals sound infinitely more audible and cleaner than they did before, while also maintaining that kind of like gritty, raw texture that you're going for in this track. So I think you fixed a lot of the problems that you had before in your mix. However, you've created a couple new ones, but the new ones are not as big of a deal, I don't think. So I think overall the vocals sound really good. I think the relationship between the vocals and the guitar sound especially good during the verses, but the chorus, it does feel like there's still a bit of competition between the vocals and the guitar, so I might turn the vocals up for those a bit. Let me see if I can find it. This part here. It's really close in terms of being where you want it to be, but I would turn the vocals up during these parts specifically just a tiny bit, because it's so like energetic and such like like an emotional core of the song. So I'm gonna make sure those vocals stand out a little bit louder than the guitar. I think during the rest of the vocal parts, I think the relationship between the guitar and the vocals is pretty good. But specifically when you do the sprint burst part, that's where I think you should take a look at it. Other than that, the drums and the bass to me seem a little bit off. I think the bass can be a tiny bit quieter. I think in this style of music, you want the bass to just kind of like, you want it to be audible, but it doesn't need to be super audible. And here it felt like it was really kind of sticking out a bit. If you're making more like electronic music, you want the bass to be a bit louder. And then the drums, I feel like your kick is getting... It sounds like the actual sound you're using for your kick drum is a little bit strange to me. I'm not sure what it is. It doesn't sound like a kick drum though. So make sure you have a nice sounding kick drum in there, and then make sure it's audible. Because once all the other layers come in, you can only really hear it during this intro. But once all the other layers come in, it really kind of drowns it out, and you really don't get much from that. I guess you can hear it a tiny bit, but it's very quiet, and it's kind of a strange sound to me. Also with the drums, I think a little bit more compression on the snare and just a hair less volume on the hats. And I think if you get those sitting right, bass down a tiny little bit, more kick drum, a little more compression on the snare, a little bit less volume on the hats, I think your mix is going to be more or less sitting pretty good, I think. Yeah, those are the kind of the main things I'm hearing, and none of those things are particularly difficult or tricky to do. It's just tweaking them a little bit, and then maybe just putting a little bit of love into the kick. But yeah, I think it's sounding really solid. And I think stylistically, I think it sounds really cool. It has this very kind of like lo-fi kind of punk rock kind of aesthetic to it that I think sounds really good. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I could definitely see like a Muse comparison there for sure. Dope. That was super cool. Kind of has like a little bit of like Black Dice kind of vibes, like a more kind of like hardcore version of Black Dice. Yeah, I'm curious, like, I'm assuming this is going to go more places than this. This is just like a draft of it, and you're going to expand the arrangement, or I'm not sure, maybe you'll leave it the way it is. But I'm really digging it. I think if I were to change one or two things about this track, one of them would be a little bit more negative space. I love how it kind of evolves to kind of have more and more layers and more things happening over time. But don't forget to cut things out, and that way it will feel less cluttered, but also can still have that kind of like chaotic element to it. There's one sound in particular. I think that's the main kind of choppy, noisy sound. I think there are times where you could chop it out in specific, like, eighth notes or something like that, to create cool, interesting rhythm and kind of start and stop and stuttery things with it, especially as things get more crazy. And I think having these different layers of rhythms going on, because right now it's really consistent. It's like this, like, it's always kind of the same speed. So chopping that guy up and splitting up into doing different things, I think will help add to the chaos. So like by removing your really consistent sound in interesting rhythmic ways, it'll actually make it sound more kind of chaotic and really and still kind of work. Other than that, I kind of want the drums to go a little harder. I think this kind of thing that, like, if you wanted to, you can make a big kind of like Amon Tobin style drums to really help kind of make a lot of these chaotic, noisy elements feel really impactful. So let me listen to it again real quick. Yeah, you have these very kind of like industrial sounding drum kind of sounds, and I think like make them big, make them super huge, make them stick out, sidechain a bunch of your different sounds to your drums so when they hit, they really slap. Yeah, those are the two things I would take a look into. Other than that, yeah, other than that, I think it's really just about exploring the sounds and just making more kind of cool, weird noises to build out into a full arrangement. But yeah, I'm digging it. It sounds super cool. So, I mean, grouping is going to be one of the best and easiest ways to be very specific about where your sidechains are going. And so that way you could have certain sounds that are tied to other certain sounds. So when, you group most of them to be sidechained to the kick and then be certain specific sounds to be sidechained to the snare or whatever. Yeah, if they're all in like one kit with a bunch of Foley, then I wouldn't worry about doing it super specifically unless you want to route the audio out of your rack or whatever they're in to do different things. Yeah, if they're all in one drum rack, I would probably separate a couple of the important sounds into their own drum rack and then sidechain to that, or yeah, sidechain from the kick to that, and that way you can be more granular about it. Yeah, you can do that if you want. Have multiple compressors set that are triggered by different things. Yeah, there's not gonna be like a right or wrong way to do it. It's more about like how precise do you want to be with your sidechaining? Do you want to have like the kick sidechain everything, or do you want to sidechain specific sounds, or do you want multiple things to sidechain specific sounds? It really kind of like up to you. I do not use Track Spacer, but I've heard good things about it. All right, so Crank, the track that you sent me, I don't know if you're still in chat. First one did not work. I'm going to try one of the other ones you sent in and see if any of them work. Nope, that one also did not work. This usually happens when you send me just the link and it's actually a private link. So make sure you send me the link that is the private link. And let me try the third one. No. Yeah, so Crank, if you're in the chat or you're still watching, yeah, take your time. I'm going to jump over to the next track, and then we'll come back and just let me know when you've updated the links. Or realistically, pick one of them, update that link, and then we'll probably have time to get the other ones. And once again, if anybody else is just joining us and wants to send a track, click on the link pinned at the top of the chat, and that's where you send me your track. Gator Dreams, generally you can send in multiple tracks after I've gotten through all of them, which usually happens well before the stream ends. That was sick. You went through a lot of different styles right there, all kind of back to back, and I think it kind of works. Um, I'm also curious if this is the arrangement you're going to stick to, or are you planning on expanding this into more? Because I think there's good arguments for both. I think it actually kind of works as like a self-contained, like, boom, here's a bunch of stuff all kind of in a row. Um, or if you want to expand it, I think that would also work. I don't know if this needs vocals. I kind of like it the way it is, but up to you. Let me jump through it a little bit, one section at a time, because there's a lot to process here. So I like the open intro here. I think it's a really strong intro. All right, so first 37 seconds of it, love, really no feedback there. I think the intro is fantastic. It has me interested, love all the sounds that are happening, fantastic. This section I thought was really interesting because when I heard this, I thought the rest of the track was going to go a very different direction. I thought it was going to go a little darker and a little bit more low-endy. So it's like an interesting fake out, which I think is like kind of a cool technique for arrangement, is to kind of like start taking your listener in one direction and then actually go in a different direction. So this section's kind of cool. It did feel a little bit overly filtered. I kind of wish we got a little bit more of a like a wider frequency range. Because I like the sounds there, but they sound really kind of muffled and distant and far away. So a little bit more on those sounds, I think it'd be cool. If you like the sound the way it is, keep it. And then we kind of like, this to me is kind of like the main meat and potatoes of what the track is. This kind of like almost like minimal 4 on the floor kind of thing. I love the little fake out before the clap. This section definitely needs one more thing though. If you're putting vocals in there, that will definitely fill a lot of that space that's missing. For me, I think just vocals here might not be enough. I would consider tossing in potentially maybe some hi-hats. I don't know, some kind of percussive element could be kind of cool. Even some really basic, simple melody could be really nice, like a chimey bell kind of synth sound could be kind of cool. Yeah, a little arpeggiated synth part. Love this section right here. I love the little vocal chop things. Yeah, I don't think you need to go nuts with other layers, but like a little off time hi-hat in between your kick and your clap during this section, I think would help fill that space and give it a little bit more of like a grooviness, which could be kind of nice. But I love this section here. I love the vocals. I love that as the last section there. The kind of like drum and bassy amen break kind of finale. Fantastic with the riser that leads into nothing. Dope. Yeah, those are like really my only feedback is just a little less filtering on this section here and like one extra hi-hat in this section here. I'm super curious to hear your vocals on this, or I guess it's going to be you doing vocals or whatever vocals you can put on there. I'm really curious to see how that shifts and changes this because I really like it the way it is. And I think that having the vocals there will change how the whole arrangement feels and lines up. But as of right now, I actually really love the arrangement. I think the arrangement is fantastic, and I'm totally behind you in keeping it the way it is. Yeah, this part, like, I like that it has that filtered feeling, but to me, the filtering is a little bit too much. So a little bit less of that while still maintaining this kind of like muffled, like you kind of sounds like you're hearing it through a wall, which I like. But a little bit less of that while still maintaining that feeling, I think would be fantastic. But yeah, this is a super cool track. I really like it. Really interesting, creative arrangement. Chat, you got any thoughts, comments, ideas, questions? Yeah, I don't think you need to filter it that much for your vocals. I think there's still plenty of room in this mix for your vocals in there. But try it out for yourself and see how it feels. All right, so Hef, I'm trying your new links and they are still not working. The first two have not worked yet. Let me try the third one. Yeah, Hef, the links are still not working. All right, what's going on with my spreadsheet? Why is the link tab so large now? All right, we got another track from Prima. So at this point, if I'm not mistaken, no worries, I'm gonna try to figure out how to fix the spreadsheet. If I'm not mistaken, we've gotten through all of the tracks from people who have not sent a track. Wait, we got a subspace track in here? Nice. No, you did it perfectly. So we got a track from Subspace here. Fantastic local Colorado producer. Up and coming. Check him out. Sweet. So I'm going to do this one also. So if anybody else is just joining us and has not submitted a track, now would be a good time to do so before I get into tracks from people who have sent in more than one track. That's perfect. These tracks do not need to be mixed.
Wow.
Nice, that was dope. Yeah, I'm really digging this track. Really kind of dark and atmospheric, although not like too dark, but like has this kind of darker feeling to it. I agree with what Hef said in chat. The hats and the percussion, super, super on point. And I think are actually like a really big like point of interest in this track that I think works really well. Overall, I think the drums sound really solid. I do really like what you're doing with your synths. I like the kind of like jammy aspect of the like gooey synths moving around quite a bit. There was one sound in particular that I felt like was maybe just like a little bit too much. I think it was right in this area. Or was it? I think this guy, to me, just felt like a little bit too much like resonant low pass filter just being wobbled up and down. And I think that, you know, I know that's a lot of these sounds to begin with, but I think that one sound in particular just felt like I wanted to see like a more creative take on that kind of sound. So maybe spice it up with some effects, maybe tweak it a little bit, or layer it a little bit. I think that would help kind of like make the whole thing work really well. Other than that, I think a little bit more negative space here. I think it's using space well, but I think it's important to remember that like occasionally just a little bit of silence or just like letting the reverb from a clap or a snare ring out is really, really impactful when you like bring it all back in. So I think being really tasteful when you get rid of things, you know, using that kind of less is more philosophy here, especially as it comes down into like later parts of your song, little bits of like half notes, quarter notes, even a bar occasionally, where just like letting something ring out into the silence and then you bring it all back is really, really powerful. Especially if it's something you want to play on a dance floor. People use that negative space to kind of like reset and then get back into dancing. So little bits of negative space can go a long way. Other than that, you have a lot of really nice ear candy, a lot of really cool sounds in the background that I'm hearing. Maybe emphasize those a little bit more in the mix and make them more kind of the conversation between all the different main synth parts. And that way it feels like it's not just like there's like one or two, maybe three main synth parts that are all kind of talking, and there's a bunch of stuff in the background, but like they're all involved in a conversation together. And then lastly, I think a little bit more emphasis on melody. I think there are definitely melodic elements here in terms of your synths and what you're doing. But I don't know, like a little arpeggiated part could be really cool. Something that, or like even like little vocal chops occasionally there. Not like full vocal things, but like little like oohs and ahs and little chop cut bits occasionally to give it more of a melodic sense would be really nice. But yeah, other than that, it's really dope. I'm really digging it. Wow. Your drums have come a really long way. Like these drums are sounding really, really solid. Yeah, I think the song does feel a little like it has a structure, but it's not like a really clear, concise structure. But I think that's fine. I think it definitely kind of like it kind of freeform moves around, which I think is cool. But yeah, super solid. Are you playing any shows recently? Let me know, and I'll try to come check it out. I saw you were playing Black Box recently, or you're about to, or something like that. Sweet. Chat, any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Yeah, and I think the bass overall sounds really good too. Just the kind of, or just not like just the low end in general. All right. Finally got the link working from Hef, so we're gonna check that out next. Nice. That's sick. I am a bit biased towards halftime. So to me, I really liked the second part here. To me, this to me was a little bit too much, but that's just, I think, more of a stylistic choice than anything. Potentially, if it were me, I might start with like, this is the intro, go into this, go into like a little break section, then go into double time or normal time, depending on how you look at it, and then go back to halftime. That might be the kind of like arc that I might take this track on. But I definitely felt like this felt more powerful. It felt more impactful to me, but it's also because I just like halftime music a lot. Yeah, really solid. I like the big noise. I like the kind of like impactfulness of everything, the kind of distortion and everything. It sounds really nice. However, it does get a bit loopy. And so I think that you're going to have to get creative in terms of how you're going to make it feel like it changes a little bit. So I would maybe look into chopping things up. Again, I've been talking about this a lot for a lot of people's tracks, but I think it's true. Negative space is really, really impactful. So creating a little bit of bits of silence there, removing layers, in addition to adding layers can be really a great way to like create a little bit more variety. If nothing else, different amounts of distortion can be a great way to add variety. So like, have maybe a bunch of your sounds going through a group, and then automate the group to rotate from like one distortion preset to a different distortion preset to a different distortion preset. And that way it's still kind of like rhythmically and energetically, it's kind of the same thing, but different sections have like a different kind of feel to them. That could be a really fun way to kind of create some more variety here. But yeah, I think those are the kind of like main things I'm thinking about when I hear this. I'm gonna listen to it again one more time, see if I notice anything else. And then in terms of the cover art, because it looks like you're asking for feedback on the cover art, I really like the cover art. I do think that the letters here are very hard to read. And if you don't know what it already says, it's really hard to read. Seeing your name here and then seeing it here makes it totally fine. But I don't know if that clarity is important to you or not. But I like the colors and what you got going on with the rest of it. Another thing you do here is you have these really long kind of bassy notes in the background. Chop those up, make those notes shorter, give them a different kind of rhythm, and I think that'll go a long way as well. Again, to create a little more variety and a little bit more kind of like rhythmic tension in terms of what's happening in the second half of the song. Some of your background layers, some of your little kind of like interesting little sound effects could be a little bit louder, and I think that'd be totally fine as well. But yeah, I like it. I like the heaviness. It kind of reminds me a bit of Scorn. If you haven't listened to them, check them out. They do kind of like heavy stuff like this. That's like down tempo, really heavy, really distorted. All right, so now I think we've gotten through at least one track from everybody. So I'm probably only going to get to one other track from everybody else, just to try to make sure we get through everything. So I believe the first one that's the second track from somebody is this one. No, you've already listened to that song. All right, Cowboy Song.
Pushing horns weren't easy, like the movie says it was. I don't remember dance hall girls or hotel rooms for us.
This is pretty different than your last track, for sure.
Tired and nasty, rode your ponies, paid too low, and all the night you couldn't sleep, 'cause it was too damn cold, and we'd sing Strawberry Rum and Little Joe.
This may be the first country song we've had on the stream.
Time we hit the river, begun to fall. Water rising so damn fast, thought it'd drown us all. Now we lost a lot of steers that day and 4 or 5 good mounts. But when all the boys rode into camp, we knew that's what counts, and we sang Whoopie-Tie, Amazing Grace. For the night they broke behind us, and they took us by surprise. I whistled out to Bonner, I saw the terror in his eyes, and he rode for all his horse would ride. I know he done his best, but he crossed over Jordan, riding Dunny to his death, and we sang, bringing in the sheets and the rugged cross. When you see the cowboy, he's not ragged by his choice, and he never meant to bow them legs or put that gravel in his voice. Just chasing what he really loves, what's burning in his soul. Wishing to hell that he'd been born 100 years ago, still singing Strawberry Roan and Little Joe. Still singing Strawberry Roan and Little Joe.
Yeah, I think that sounds really good. The mix sounds really nice. I think that one of the things about mixing, something like this compared to mixing like electronic music is that you want it to sound really natural, right? You don't need it to sound like overly processed, and this has this very kind of like nice, subtle, raw quality to it. So I think the kick was a really nice taste, or really nice touch, really tasteful. The extra guitars sound great, the vocals sound great, guitar sounds great. I think the only real thing to me that really kind of sticks out here is maybe needing a little bit of love is the strings, because while you can tell the guitar playing is real and the singing is real, the strings definitely sound fake, which stands out in contrast to how, again, like how straightforward everything else is. So when it comes to strings, there's really no replacement to just finding somebody who plays string instrument and recording them. No, the best string instruments in the world will still not sound as good as somebody just playing something, right? And the best string instruments in the world can kind of close, but they're really, really expensive, right? So what do you do when you're in a situation where you want to add some strings to your track and all you have are like the Ableton Live stock string instruments? The two things I'd recommend is going to be number one, layering. By having multiple layers with different articulations that are playing something slightly different, it'll make it sound a bit more human. And number two is try to mask it with reverb. And in this situation, you have to be really kind of careful with how much reverb you use on there, because it'll sound out of place because of how kind of clean and dry everything else is. But definitely using a bit of reverb to kind of mask the fact that it's not a real string is a technique I've used a lot, and it's not always perfect, but it definitely can help. It make it sound a little different. Although honestly, if you're still having trouble with wrangling those strings and making them sound really good, really the solution is you don't need them. I think this track would be just as good, if not better, without the strings. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing here. I like we did the kick, like all the mixing, sounds great. Chat, any other thoughts, comments, questions, ideas? let us know. And if anybody is just joining us, if you want to send us a track, you can click on the link pinned up at the top of the chat, and then that's how you send me your track. All right, so Munch is what I just want to call. Your track is not working. I think it's probably a private one. So just make sure you send the link to that is the private link as opposed to just the actual URL. Be jumping around a bunch because people are sending me lots of tracks, and some of them are not working. All right, so we're gonna jump to another Subspace song, and then back to that one if we get that link working, and then have another one of your tracks. I think that's the order, unless somebody sends a new track in. Yeah, Gator Dreams, thanks for popping by. Nice. I'm getting a lot of like EEPROM kind of vibes off of this track, except for not quite as heavy and in your face. But the drums, I think, very much have the EEPROM kind of thing going on. And even a lot of like the melodic parts also sound a little EEPROM-y. Drums sound fantastic. Once again, really nice work on those. I did feel like there was a little bit too much variety in terms of the velocity coming into your snare. A lot of your snares sounded like right on point where they should be, and some of them sounded a little weaker, and I don't know if it was a velocity thing or what's going on with that. I also think you can feel free to just over compress your snare here, and that would be totally fine, and I'd be super into it. I do feel like the plucky bass over here, in terms of like the synth and the sound design, is probably one of the weaker sounds in here. And so I might swap that out with something that's a little bit thicker. However, the same sound, or not the same, the sound, another sound that's happening at the same time, you have this kind of like high pitched kind of drony synth. So here, this guy in the background, fantastic, love that, fantastic work there. I feel like if it were up to me, just a big square wave bass line to just like with a bunch of unison on it would like, I don't know, I kind of feel like a lot of your low end is really kind of like subtle, and that might just be the kind of style you're going for in this track. But for me, big saw wave with a bunch of unison on it, not saw wave, either a big saw or a big square with a bunch of unison playing your same kind of melody bass line kind of sound with a bit of glide on it, I think would be fantastic. And also move it more into that EEPROM territory. I'm not sure if you're trying to go in that direction or not. But I think especially at the end here, to really kind of build it up, big, unfiltered square wave, I think playing just like really, really low notes, as low as you can go, basically, I think would really help kind of like bring up the energy for the last little bit and make it seem like nice and big and heavy. Other than that, I'm kind of digging it. I'm going to jump around real quick to see if I notice anything else, but I think it should be pretty good. Intro sounds cool. Yeah, I think I'm just not feeling that pluck. And I think, hold on real quick, let me pull something up. This is why I have live in the background, so if I want to do an example, just this kind of thing. That kind of thing where it's just square wave with a bunch of unison, or a saw wave with a bunch of unison, playing that same kind of bass line with just longer notes. I think would fit in there really well, and I think it would sound really cool. Up to you though, do whatever you want to do there. I like this part a lot. Also, there's like a little bit of kind of like Foley noises going on the back here. More of that. Absolutely more of that. I think that's definitely going to be really key to making this track work, is those little kind of like... You have a few like chain shaking and different kind of sounds in the background there that I think will be really important to kind of make more of an emphasis in this track. Add some nice textures in there. But yeah, super dope track, really digging it. All right, another track over here. The link is working now. Also, if anybody wants to send a track, click on the link up at the pinned up at the top of the chat. Nice. I knew as soon as I saw this waveform, I was like, this is going to be a curveball over here. And it wasn't what I was expecting, but that's why it was a curveball. So I love it. Really, really, really cool. I think the intro is more or less perfect. I don't think I would change anything moving up to, there, the first 2 minutes and 10 seconds of the song. Really fantastic. I don't have any critical feedback here. It sounds great. Love the guitar. Drums sound really good. Everything builds up really nicely. Mix sounds really good. The clock is really nice. Like the sound of the clock ticking fits in really nicely with what's going on in the track. Fantastic work there. This part here, I conceptually I love. I do think it could use a little bit of massaging to really kind of like meld it to fit the rest of the track a little better. So first off, I like the fact that the kick is really distorted. However, I think you could go a little bit less heavy on the distortion on the kick. And I think that would end up benefiting you. Like still get a bit of that distortion sound without like just totally coloring your kick like that. Other than that, there is a little bit of like, there's like a higher pitched melody part going on. Yeah, there's like another melodic synth part in there. Maybe have a separate sidechain for that that's not quite as heavy, so it still pulses, but you can still hear it a little bit more. Right now, it's just like, it just gets totally lost behind the big kind of saw wavy synth pad part. So maybe make the sidechain a little bit less on specifically that sound, and that way it maintains a little bit more of the melodic nature. But yeah, those are really the only kind of two main things in this section that I think could use a little love. I like the clock. I think the clock is working, especially during this part. If you don't like the clock, I'm not tied to it. I think you can get rid of it, and it wouldn't change the way I feel about this track, but I think the clock works. Especially leading into the little, transition right here. I don't think you need the clock during this section, though. I think you get rid of it here. Keep it in the intro, potentially. But yeah, super cool. I love what you're doing with these arrangements. I think they're fantastic. I think you should continue down this path of just like having these really fantastically interesting arrangements, for sure. Chat, any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas, opinions? Let us know. Next up, we got a track from Dantus. Nice, really nice work here, Dantis. I definitely like the kind of spacey sci-fi kind of vibe you got going here. So couple thoughts. Um, I feel like this middle section here is really strong. The kind of like atmospheric, kind of like you're floating in space kind of section. That whole part is fantastic. Really digging that. I did feel like your intro, it needs something to spice it up a little bit. I think it goes on for a decently long time. And it's basically like we got kick and we got a couple synths floating around. And I think they're not quite enough to capture my attention. I think with the intro, you want to like bring people in, you want people to be excited to learn where the song is going. And I think that it needs something extra here. If it were up to me, a melody would be fantastic. Maybe some vocals could work really well. Even getting a little fancy, a little spicy with some percussion could be a good way to help kind of bring people in. Something that like is going to introduce your listener to the concept of the rest of the song without giving away too much, right? So I definitely for that intro, see if you want to like toss something else in there, see how that feels. And then, as I said, middle section here, once we get into like ambient sound design world, I'm all in favor of it. Love what you got going on. Like the flutes, like the cool echoing sounds. Synth sounds really nice. All right, and then we get into like the main, part of the song here. I think my biggest issue here is you have these very long bass notes. They're very like sustained. And I think you might be a little bit better off with a more kind of plucky bass line, like a more kind of like traditional house kind of like plucked kind of thing, instead of these really long notes. Mostly because it'll add a bit more to the groove of the song. I'm assuming this is the kind of song you want people to dance to. You can play in a nightclub. So having a more kind of plucky thing will give it more of a rhythmic element as opposed to just these really long notes, because you already have a bunch of like synthy layers that are playing the really long notes. So when both your synths and your bass are both playing really long, steady notes, it can definitely work, and that's definitely a thing that people do in house music and other kinds of music. But I think this track would benefit a lot from more of like the rhythmic, plucky kind of bass line as opposed to what you have going on now. Kind of along the same lines, some kind of melodic element here would be really nice. Use more of that flute. Get some flute going on here. Yeah, that flute from this section here works great. Toss some more flute in there. That'd be fantastic. And then also more percussion. You have these kind of like djembe kind of percussion going on. But it gets pretty lost in the mix. So more volume on those djembe kind of drums. I think that'd be fantastic. And I like you're doing more with percussion in this section. I think you could explore that area a little bit more, and I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, same thing you have. I don't know what it's, some other kind of percussive thing going on. A little more volume, a little more emphasis on that would be super cool. And don't forget the impact and the power of hi-hats in house music. Just changing, like adding one hi-hat or removing one hi-hat or changing one hi-hat can totally change the feel of a dance floor when you're playing like a house music set. So don't forget to make sure you are putting some hats in there and, playing with the timing a little bit, make the timing change a little bit. And, for a lot of like techno and house music, like one little tiny change on a hi-hat and everything feels totally different, right? So don't forget about that. Other than that, I really dig it. I like the atmosphere of it. I like that it doesn't go on forever. Sometimes in this style of music, you get these really long 8-minute, very spacey, very synthy kind of songs. And I think this is a good length for the track that you have going on right now. But yeah, those are the main things I'm thinking. It sounds really good. I really like your synth work. The synths sound really good. Like I said, especially all this section here. So the more elements you can kind of steal from this section and kind of spread out to other parts of your song, I think the better. But yeah, overall, really solid work. Sweet, and I think we got a couple more tracks. If anybody is enjoying the stream, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe if you are new around here. I do this every Wednesday. I just come in and listen to your tracks. So I appreciate all you guys coming by and sending in tracks and all the support. All right. Ultimate Beat Contest. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, no worries, Dantis. Nice, that was pretty sick. I mean, it seems like this is obviously like a challenge to incorporate a bunch of different samples into one kind of thing. So the arrangement feels like it is jumping around a lot, specifically because that's the nature of what it is you're trying to do here. But I feel like, especially for the first like 2/3 of this track, like it all felt like it fit together really nicely. It wasn't really until actually the last little bit right here, it felt like it was kind of a different song. Everything else kind of like meshed really nicely while also integrating lots of different styles of samples, different styles of beats, different styles of music. And I think it is a little hectic, but it worked, which was really cool. In terms of feedback and like things to take a look at, it's a little hard because it does seem like this is kind of an experiment in trying to do a specific thing. But overall, I think it sounds really solid. I did feel like somewhere in this area, it felt like there was a lot of different stuff going on in your low end, and sometimes those things in your low end didn't necessarily play nicely, but it wasn't too big of a deal. I'm gonna see if I can find the spot. There's a couple spots in there where the bass seems like it's either it's not playing nicely with other things in the mix, and there's also a couple points, especially right here, where there's a little bit of distortion on there. I'm not sure if that distortion is intentional or not. It doesn't sound intentional to me. I think if we're up to me, I might want it to be a little cleaner. Yeah, there's a little bit of crispiness in there that I'm not sure I love. Other than that, though, all these beats sound really dope. They sound really cool. They all, like, the melodic parts work really well with the beat. They all have a lot of like funk and groove to them. I'm kind of digging it. I don't know if I have a lot of like critical feedback on the rest of it, because it all kind of works together well as like kind of a very mini mixtape of beat ideas. And they flow nicely from one to the next, which is really nice. And I really like the guitar part. This part does get a little hectic. I think that's the intention though, so I'm not too, I don't have really any like critical feedback about it. I think maybe some of the like the reverse sounds in the mix, I would turn them down a tiny bit, but I think it still sounds cool. And these beats sound dope. I love these too. Maybe a tiny bit less delay on some of those vocal parts because they echo on for pretty long. But again, it's all like really kind of minor stuff. They're all really dope beats, and they all work together really well, and they sound pretty cool. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that one. All right, next up, and I believe this is going to be the last track for the day, unless somebody else comes by and has a track that needs some feedback. It's going to be another one from Hef, drum and bass track, it seems like. I think I got through everybody else's track. In fact, I think I got through 2 tracks from most people today. So yes, I think it's going to be the last one for now. Cool. Cool little drum and bass kind of experiment here. I like what you got going on. Is that a modular synthesizer you're using to make those? So I think the big thing here to me is the bass needs to be much, much bigger and more powerful and impactful. It sounds cool now, but sorry, I'm just trying to check chat and see what's going on. Yeah, so the bass here I think needs to be more powerful. Little bits of distortion on sounds like this kind of like Reese bass kind of sound go a long way. I'm a pretty big fan of using like pedal or overdrive, usually pedal these days, to take a sound like this and really kind of like, grind it up a little bit. Also, notch filters on this kind of sound also work really well, I think. Yeah, so first off, when this sound comes in, the bass sound comes in, give it a long time. Give it like 2 bars or something, maybe even 4 bars of just that sound ringing out and being really grabby, and then bring in the drum beat. Let the audience kind of like sit with that as a sound by itself. I think the drum beat itself sounds okay. I think with drum and bass, you can either go the like sampled drum beat kind of thing, like amen break, slice it up, rearrange it kind of thing. Or you can go something more like this, which has more of like you kind of programmed it with MIDI. I would maybe try swapping out this drum beat for one that's more of like you find an old school drum break, slice it up, rearrange it, and then just like overcompress it. And I think that helps bring a lot of energy to these types of tracks. That may be a personal preference thing. You might kind of like it the way it is. But for me, I kind of like the sampled drum beat sound in drum and bass. Also, you went nuts with the reverb in the intro. Which, again, I will always be the first to admit, I generally go way too heavy when it comes to reverbs. And I love going too heavy on reverbs, but I think you can tone down the feedback on that, or the decay on that reverb, and that would be totally fine. Yeah, I think if you tone down the reverb on that vocal sample, it'll give you more space to put other sounds in there. So you can maybe do like a call and response between this vocal sample and a different vocal sample, kind of go back and forth and kind of see where that gets you. But yeah, it seems like a really cool kind of start to an idea. I think a lot of it's going to come down to what you can do with that bass sound. If the bass sound works, the rest of the song will work. If the bass sound doesn't work, the rest of the song is going to be harder for people to get into. So make sure you put a lot of effort and time and love into making that bass really kind of like stick out. Sweet, chat. Any thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Sweet. So at this point, I think I've gotten through at least 2 tracks from everybody who submitted a track. I see there's a 3rd subspace and there's a 3rd track from Hef, 3rd scientific dopeness track. I'm going to save both those tracks for the start of next stream, just because we're kind of running low on time, and that way I'll be able to just get to them at the start of stream. As you guys are probably already aware, all the streams are recorded and uploaded to the channel, so if you want to go back and watch your feedback later on, you're always welcome to do that. You're also always welcome to submit your tracks early for the feedback stream, even if you can't make it to a feedback stream. Just follow the same link, it takes you to the same spreadsheet, and just put your track in there, and I will get to it. So I think that's going to be it for the stream today, as well as the stream this week. I'll be back on Monday, the same time, for like an office hours kind of stream. So if you want to come by, ask me new questions, Ableton Live 11.1 just came out, so I'm going to be probably talking about that a little bit, see if I notice anything cool that's worth checking out. And then Patreon stream on Tuesday, if you're a Patreon member, and then back on Wednesday for another song feedback stream. Scientific dopeness, I think, is, I don't know, I don't want to sound harsh here, but I think you can probably do better in terms of a name. I think it sounds cool, but I think when you pick a name for your artist name, you want something that like way down the road 10 years from now, you're gonna look back and be like, oh yeah, that's a dope name. So again, I'm not gonna have any more comments than that, but I think you can probably think of think of one that you will have a little bit more of like a timeless quality to it. I mean, is there any reason your DJ name and your producer name can't be the same thing? Yeah, Jacob, thanks for popping by. Appreciate it. It's good to hear the stuff you're working on. It sounds really good. Sweet. All right. Well, appreciate all you guys. Get some music written this weekend, whenever you can, and take care of yourselves. And I will see you next week.